production of Pioneer Utility Resources. Story Connect, helping communicators discover ideas to shape their stories and connect with their customers.
What role do youth programs play in boosting member engagement? That's what we'll be talking about on this episode of the Story Connect podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Megan McCoy-No, one of the storytellers at Pioneer Utility Resources. And I am joined by Tory Tedder-Loffland, who's been at Oklahoma Electric Cooperative in Norman, Oklahoma for almost 18 years now, most recently as the Education and Outreach Programs Director. But starting this May, Tory will be launching a co-op education consulting firm called the Co-op Box. Tory, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Megan. I am glad to be here.
Now, could you start us off by telling folks a little bit about Oklahoma Electric Cooperative and the communities that you serve?
Absolutely. Oklahoma Electric Cooperative has been around since 1937. We are headquartered in Norman, Oklahoma. It's almost right in the middle of the state. We serve 7 central counties in Oklahoma. We are the largest co-op in Oklahoma, serving just over 49,000 members with over 63,000 meters.
Nice. And
Primarily residential.
I've been a fan of OEC for a long time. I love seeing the different ways that you share your story. So we wanted to have you on specifically to talk about youth programs because almost every utility has some sort of a youth program, from scholarships, the Washington Youth Tour, a lot of folks do, to statewide educational events. And this really is your bailiwick. This is what you do well on. So could you give us a brief overview of the scope of OEC's youth programs?
Absolutely. We do all of the statewide events, the Washington, D.C. Youth Tour. Our statewide has a energy camp, which is for 8th graders every year. We have a leadership summit that goes along with the Oklahoma Youth Expo, which is our statewide FFA show animal event.
Yeah.
I think it's the largest in the nation, last I checked, of a statewide event for FFA folks.
So those are all just statewide, right?
Yeah, those are all statewide.
So
They do a lot. We have a very active statewide, and of course, youth tour. Statewide takes the delegation to DC, so it goes national. On top of that, we have something called a Get Charged program. And that is a hands-on electricity education curriculum for K through 5.
Do you have a favorite?
Well, I have to say, it's really hard to talk about a favorite because each program kind of hits on a different demographic, a different interest in the child. And I think that's really important. But I mean, if you're going to force me, I'm going to choose Get Charged. Mainly because of its origin story. I think it really speaks to why co-ops are so great at what they do.
And Get Charged is for 5th graders.
It's for K through 5.
K through 5. So this is their first introduction to your utility and the world of electricity and fiber, all of that.
Correct. Okay. So every grade has a different lesson. They all align with state standards. And so you can go into the classroom without taking important classroom time away from the teacher. You are adding to their toolbox of resources. So every grade has a different lesson. We go in, we provide all the materials needed to do that lesson, to make that experiment happen. We provide the lesson plan, and we will teach the lesson. Sometimes teachers like that. Sometimes they just want you to give them the curriculum and they'll take it over, and that's fine. Especially once COVID hit, we had to pivot away from going into the classroom. So we started to make kits that our teachers can check out. We find homeschoolers really love it.
Oh,
They check out the kits all the time. So we like to support every level of education.
well, and I should say I'm a homeschooler 10 years. So thank you for
Well,
making
there you go.
things
There you go.
available
We
for
we
folks that are
do
homeschooling
we
as
do a
well.
lot of homeschool events because a lot of times homeschoolers come together for big events, and so we'll
Hmm.
do a little education festival with all of our cool electricity experiments,
Oh,
and it's a
fun.
lot of fun.
And you said that the origin story for Get Charged is why you don't like to pick
Yes,
favorites, but it kind of is up there. So share
right,
that
right.
with me.
So a couple of things kind of fell together at the same time. One, retirements were happening across the board, and this happened in the electric cooperative world nationwide, right?
Oh, yes.
So it was back in the 2015 era, 2014 era,
Hmm.
and we were having retirements happen. So we had a restructuring going on in our department. We were changing jobs. I had just taken over youth programs. I was previously the editor of the magazine.
Hmm.
Um, Additionally, our company decided to undergo a strategic planning process, which I have to highly recommend. It's
Yes.
a big undertaking and it really takes, top-down involvement and encouragement. But what that gave us as a department and as a co-op as a whole, the ability to sit down, step away from the day-to-day work and really sit
Yeah.
down and strategically think about what we're doing, what our programs are, where we're spending our money. When I took over youth programs, we were spending money here, there, this softball team, that basketball team, maybe a track meet, you know, uh, just all over the place, hit and miss, always supporting the FFA livestock shows and that sort of thing. But were we really making an impact,
Yeah.
right? And so what we did is we sat down and started thinking about where to put our money and how we can do the most without giving up taking care of the little guy, right? That's what we're all about at co-ops. But what can we do the most to make the most impact, make the be beneficial to people? And then um, sadly, and I think this is something that a lot of states suffer with, are the Oklahoma legislature cut education budgets severely. We had a tax shortfall, and I mean, there was a severe crunch. Our schools, our towns were faced with consolidation
Yeah.
or closing of school districts. And I think we all know if a town loses their school, they've lost their soul. They're going to really struggle. And as co-ops dedicated to improving the standard of life, we really need to think about protecting our small towns. Um, and so all of those things came together as I was thinking about what can we do.
Yeah.
And get charged is a small thing. But it was through those conversations and through thinking out that sort of scenario that Get Charged came about. So I was thinking, okay, what can we do to contribute to the communities in a meaningful way? I've got a budget. I can buy supplies to do the electric experiments that we can reuse. We go into the classroom and then we bring it back, essentially. And so it's evolved since then. 2020 hit, and like I said, we made the kits.
Yeah.
But I think that's why I'm so proud of Get Charged, just because I didn't solve the budget crisis, but we did one thing that we've gotten some good feedback from our teachers.
Can you give me an example of one of the things that y'all do? One of the
Oh,
kits that you have for
absolutely.
Get Charged?
Absolutely. I think I said every grade has a different lesson.
Sure.
So if we let's just start with fifth grade. It's one of the shorter lessons. We make a compass. So we're studying the electromagnetic spectrum. We
Hmm.
bring in the history of magnetism and traveling, voyaging people, discovering magnetism and how they could make a compass. We talk about transferring of magnetic power, and they create their own floating compass, and they have the best time. It is messy, and but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. In fourth grade, we create a simple circuit, and then we add a switch to it, and they eventually communicate with Morse code
Oh,
using their switch.
that's
We replace
fun.
the light bulb with a buzzer, and they communicate with Morse code. And so through that lesson, we're also talking about the history of communication and how important electricity was in that. And we talk about the
Uh,
different levels. It's a lot of
yeah.
fun. It's a lot of fun.
Ugh. Now, what about Get Charged? Have you tracked how many students have gone through those programs?
So I forgot to mention that was another part of the origin story that ties in. But that was part of why Get Charged was so great, because I think nationwide, NRECA had just come out, or they were about to come out with their YAMI, the young
Young Adult Member
adult.
Engagement
Yes,
Initiative.
yes. So we were all concerned about our loyal, longtime
Mhm.
members who understood what co-ops were, because they were there when we didn't have co-ops, before rural electrification. They're dying. They're passing on, and we need to be really concentrating on this up and coming, especially at OEC, where we are very urban. There is a connection to co-ops in rural communities that urban folk don't necessarily understand, unless, I mean, I can talk about co-op stuff all the time. And then you got the
No,
housing
I
co-ops
know,
back
but
east, and it's a different kind of co-op. But
yeah, we have
so
to
we
tell
were
our story.
so how do you get that 35 to 45 or 30 to 45 age group to understand who you are and to care about
Mhm.
who you are, your why? And you do that by, well, that sounds subversive. I was going to say going through their kids, but you show your true colors when you do good things for people. And
Yeah.
so that is one of the things. If I went into the classroom and got them so excited by the lesson, and they bring that home to mom and dad, that's relationship building. I'm building relationships with these kids from young years. I'm going to get them in eighth grade. If I get them K through 5 and
Yeah.
they're having fun, then
Hmm.
they're going to want to go to energy camp in eighth grade.
Exactly.
If I get them in eighth grade and we go through that leadership training and we go through that co-op building, then I'm going to get them in youth tour. And
Yeah.
if I get them through youth tour, they understand really what their impact on the world can be and what the co-op did to help support them in their journey, and they're going to remember who we are as they get older. And we are seeing that. I am seeing kids coming to energy camp who remember me in the classroom.
Oh,
I'm
I
seeing
love that.
kids, from one year to the next. Oh, I saw you in third grade. What are you going to do with us this year? And that's just a lot of fun. I mean, that's
Well,
just that's just a lot of fun.
it's a really fun way to tell your story. And as we always say in the podcast, you've got to keep telling your story over and
Hmm.
over again. So I love that your programs cover such a huge spread of your
Yeah.
future members' time
Yes.
in school. So you keep
Yes.
coming back. And I love that you have that program um, year after year. And then after they do the youth program, then if you have scholarships that are available, they know
Hmm.
about it, they have the history with you, and then they can take you on into their future college careers if they go that path. If they are looking for careers, they're going to think of the co-op. It's creating a lifelong bond
Right.
with these your future members. So we're always trying to figure
Right.
out how to reach people when they're in their 30s. We'll
Hmm.
start by reaching them when they're 6,
Right.
7, and on
Yes.
through. I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with Utility Pioneers, Tory.
Thanks,
She
Megan.
is Tory Tedder-Loffland at Oklahoma Electric Cooperative, and soon to be at the Co-op Box. And I'm your host, Megan McCoy-No at Pioneer Utility Resources. And until we talk again, keep telling your story.
Story Connect is produced by Pioneer Utility Resources, a communications cooperative that is built to share your story. Story Connect is engineered by Lucas Smith of Lucky Sound Studio.